It's time for Talkin Tauntauns, your Star Wars source at AIPTcomics.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tauntauns, the official Star Wars podcast for AIPTcomics.com. I am JJ Travers, and I'm joined this morning, as always, by Jim Lehane and Nicole Herview. We've got a really special episode for you today that I'm super excited about. If you've been listening with us regularly, you'll know that we've been going through all of the Star Wars films one by one, about every 5 to 6 weeks, and reviewing them. And today, joining us to review Solo, one of my personal favorite films, is a very special guest that I know Jim would like to introduce.
Yes, I wanted to introduce because the last time I introduced our guest, I don't understand how English works, and I apparently introduced her with a word that was not as flattering as I thought it was, and so I have my dictionary in hand.
Oh, mon Dieu.
And I used to have a thesaurus, but my wife made me throw it out because she said something like the internet did things like that, and so I looked up an apropos word, and we have tonight the host and co-host of Stuff You Missed in History Class and Full of Sith, the marvelous Holly Fry.
Did you actually have to look up the word marvelous?
I gotta be honest, man, I think we were all expecting something like...
Well...
It was. I thought
a little
we
more
might
high
get
school.
I have a doctorate.
French.
I had to look that up, okay?
No, you're very sweet. I'll take it. I love that word. I overuse it, so.
Awe-inspiring,
There you go.
breathtaking, extraordinary.
Lies and deception.
How about implausible?
We're getting closer.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But I'm so happy to be here because I will talk about Solo all day, every day to anyone who would like to.
When Jim said you love Solo as much as I do, I was so stoked that you were going to be joining us for this. I feel this film is criminally underrated and has been treated unfairly for a very long time, so I'm very happy to have a group of people to heap praise upon it.
I love it. All caps love.
I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
How long's that gonna take?
Depends how good you are at following orders. What's your name, son?
Hunt.
What? Who are your people?
I don't have people. I'm alone.
Solo. Approved. Proceed to transport ID 83 for the Naval Academy at Karida. Good luck, Han Solo. We'll have you flying in no time.
So, Solo came out, it feels like so much longer to me. I don't know if it's because time just didn't mean anything last year that I'm shocked by this, but I can't believe that it came out in 2018. For some reason, to me, it feels like it's been out for years and years. But yeah, it was released in May of 2018 as one of the highest cost films of all time, and shortly after The Last Jedi, just about 5 months. And the reception was pretty, I would say at the time, not good. I think that's changed a lot since then. But at the time, I was kind of shocked by the reception that it got. It followed Han and Chewie on, the form of their relationship about 10 years prior to A New Hope. And right off the bat with the crawl, they make it clear that this is not a traditional Star Wars film. There's no opening crawl. They're just telling you this is about criminals right off the bat, which to me was very exciting because it was a very different part of the Star Wars universe that in the new canon hadn't really been explored yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is like the magic sweet spot, right? Like, I am not particularly Jedi-centric in my affinity for Star Wars. I want to look at all the squirrely corners where the weird stuff is going on. So this movie is like, hello, here's a buffet of all the things you love the most. And it will be beautiful and fun. Great.
We started the podcast November of 2018, so I had thought we had done this when it first came out, but this is our first look back at it for the podcast.
I'm still processing 2018. I could have sworn like 2016. Like, I know that's not a huge difference, but like I thought this was years ago. But yeah, time doesn't mean anything anymore.
It is 3 years ago.
Yeah. What did I say?
Years.
Well, yes, but like many. Leave me alone, Jim. It's early.
He's getting very technical that 3 is a plural, apparently.
I mean, yeah, so's 2.
Jim never does that
2
to
is
us.
years.
Never
Jim wants
pedantic.
a fight this morning. My God.
So, Jim, correct me
No, but it's fun.
if I'm wrong, but this was your first rewatch since you originally saw the film, correct?
Yep, I saw it opening night. I did not like it that much. I left the movie theater going, I can see why people liked this movie, but I personally did not like this movie. And I hadn't seen it since. It's been on my I should probably rewatch that movie list, but it's never come up. I'm not one of those people that sits and rewatches the Star Wars movies or has them playing in the background. So I don't rewatch movies frequently. There's very few movies I've seen more than once. And so this was my first time watching it a second time.
So,
This from the man who just busted Nicole's chops over years.
Thank you.
The first time I watched it, the second time. I'm just saying. You know I love you, Jim, but come
I'm
on.
really glad Holly's here for this. He needs more of this. It's good for him.
I'm even a bigger fan of Holly right now. So that's fun.
So, Jim, walking away...
I'm wildly curious why you...
Oh, no, go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing you were. I'm wildly curious why you didn't initially like it and what has shifted since then.
I don't know why I didn't like it at first. It's one of those like it just didn't click with me. It was a fine movie. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought. I'm assuming it had to do with preconceived notions, and I try not to go in with those, but everybody has preconceived notions, especially with the Star Wars movies, even if you try not to have them. And so I left it and going, yeah, and I know my wife didn't greatly enjoy the movie either, and so it's probably like a combination of like just wasn't for us. But sitting down last night, I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I had thought I would. Probably also it fits better with all the stuff that came out afterwards. Having read all the books and all the comics, there's so much more that builds into Solo now. And it's a lot like Solo starts off kind of in the middle of things, but I think the novelization of Solo gives you a little bit before Han is running away with that car and kind of gives you the drop. And there's not much explained about where he got the coaxium from, but they're in the novelization you get a whole lot more with that, and that helps kind of give you more of a background into the movie, so you're not kind of starting off with what is going on, what is happening, sort of feel that you have, because it's never really explained all that well in the movie itself. And so that probably kind of like not enough explanations you get in the movie, where with all the background material, it kind of fleshes things out. That, and I liked Moloch a whole lot more this time. I didn't realize that he wasn't wearing a mask. Like, that was his face. I don't know. Like, there's several things I caught that I didn't realize. Yeah. JJ's holding a little, is that Lego?
Yes,
A Lego,
and it even
a
has
Lego
the two
Moloch
little,
car.
dogs in the side.
Oh, Corellian hounds that are tiny and petite.
I'm a sucker for Star Wars Legos. It's a very expensive problem.
Are you me?
Jim, so what about it this time? You know, was there, we're going to talk about all sorts of things from the film, but like, was there anything in particular that like really changed your opinion on the film this time around?
I was just catching a whole lot more. There's a lot more detail to the movie than I had caught the first time around. And it's like, clearly with most movies, if you only watch them once, there's a lot more going on. And I just like it had more in the background than I had remembered or even like paid attention to the first time. Because the first time you're just trying to pay attention to what's going on in the movie. And so that's it. Since I knew what was going to happen, there was no surprises. It was more of I can just sit down and enjoy the movie as it is. And it was a lot more fun than I had remembered.
I think that's one of my favorite parts about this film is it doesn't feel like there's really high stakes like when you're watching the trilogies. It's just a fun movie, and I think that's why I rewatch it so much, is because it's just such a fun adventure, like Ocean's 12 and Star Wars Land heist. And there's no, obviously there's tons of Easter eggs and tons of threads from other parts of the franchise, but I just feel like there's no like looming, like, of the next film and the next film of overarching story. It's just a look at a specific time in a lot of characters' lives that we really love, and this fun adventure they went on. And for me, it's so easy to watch because of that and just enjoy.
It's very fun. Like, I forgot how much fun it was. I think last night was my third watch of the movie ever, and the second one was on, like, TBS or some nonsense. Like, it was on television, and I was like, this is on, and wasn't really invested. So this was kind of my second time being invested. And I forgot how much humor is in this movie. It's hysterical. Like, genuinely funny moments. I didn't write any down, but there's so many that it's just like, this humor is great. And also, the casting was immaculate to me. Like, this movie's casting was phenomenal. And another thing I picked up on a lot were all the Galaxy's Edge references. There were several references that I was like, oh, you just said Doc Ondar. That's fun for me. Like, I just found that it was just fun.
A few times. Yeah, you're right.
Black Spire. Yeah. L3 says to Lando, like, you wouldn't make it to Black Spire without me. And I'm like, I know where that is. And that's always fun. And, like, last time I didn't know who Aura Singh was. I'm like, wow, I know these people that we're talking about. It's great. Yeah, it's just fun front to back. And that's all I needed from it, honestly. I just needed it to be fun. And it was, like, great. You know?
Aura Singh's probably the most important character in the Phantom Menace. I don't know how you don't know who she was.
Look, I'm just gonna keep on doing this for random characters.
He's just gonna keep holding stuff up.
Just holding figures.
My action figure is about
all of our
that way.
listeners not able to see video will appreciate me holding up a Funko Pop of Aura Singh.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like that the tone of it is set right out of the gate in terms of that lighter, rompy kind of thing, where we're looking at the backstory of someone who becomes a hero of the rebellion and, like, this, lauded icon. And his story, at least on screen as we see it, starts with him hot wiring a car. Like, it's like, here is everything you need to know about what's about to play out.
Actually, now that it kind of has a American Graffiti vibe to it.
Oh, very much.
Yeah, and they've got the dice, and he's, wise talking to Mullock, and then you walk into Lady Proxima's lair, which is gorgeous, and her design is amazing, and the name of the actor that voices her is escaping me at the moment.
Linda Hunt.
Thank you. Amazing. And then, as you said with the
Holly's
humor...
on that.
The humor right off the bat, I've got this.
That's a rock.
What's that supposed to be? Thermal detonator? It's a rock.
And you just clicked your tongue.
I just armed it.
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't think Lady Proxima's jewelry game gets enough attention because that woman accessorizes. Like,
she has skills.
As worm creatures go, she has style for days. And then when you think about, like, her skin being burned and all of that jewelry getting burned into the tissue of her skin, it's a marvelous, horrible, wonderful thing.
I love how she comes back in the Dr. Aphra comics.
Yes.
Where Dr. Aphra is trying to give her jewelry.
She knows her audience.
Yeah. Sparkly. She's like an underground magpie.
I think my biggest problem, probably, I don't know if it was the first time around, but my biggest problem this time with the movie is that it is dark. I don't know if, like, it was on my TV that I was watching, but it was like squinting at the TV a lot. Like, I'm like, this is, especially when they're in the beginning parts before he busts the glass with the rock. It's very dark in there, so you can't see everything that's going on. And, like, you want to see everything that's going on.
Yeah, the first half hour I wrote down. The first half an hour is all dark. Like, there's no sun. Sun doesn't exist. We don't know her. Like, it's just very gloomy. And I guess it's, like, because the second that palette changes is when Han starts working with Beckett and those people, and like his life kind of turns, right? He meets Chewie, and then it gets lighter, and it's like kind of interesting. Like, I liked that. I picked up on it for the first time this watch, but like, it still makes the first half hour very dark, which contributes to like not the best vibe. You know what I mean? Like, your mood isn't going to be the mood we're looking for, with this like fun, humorous. I think that might have been a part of like the psychology of the reception.
Oh, definitely.
But it definitely makes sense. Like, it works. Like, Han Solo's life sucks, and then he meets Chewie and Beckett and all of them, and gets a little better, a little bit, and then like it literally gets lighter throughout the movie. And I think that it's effective, but you're still not starting off on a great foot audience-wise, you know, which is why maybe a rewatch helps.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing you want to watch in optimal lighting conditions. I mean, I love the dark stuff because if you look at that palette, right, a lot of the clothes that you see in that early stage are these, not even clothes, but just color pieces. Like the speeder too is that dark purple, and it's they're jewel tones that are kind of dirtied down. So it's like there is something desperately trying to break through, and it just can't until they get through that. And I always I don't think this was intentional, but for me, the transition point in part of it is that red lipstick on the that passage maven's maquillage, right? Like, and they even mention it in some of the books and in the visual guide that is not a regulation color, that she's like 2 shades beyond what she's supposed to be allowed to. And to me, it's exactly what you were saying, Nicole. Like, there's this transition point where his life shifts suddenly, and to me that's like the conduit is that moment where they pass by this woman who is also trying to figure out a way to add more color to her life in this dreary, dismal place.
Yeah, I think you
Also shows she's willing to break the rules.
Yes.
Which she does.
And then throw everyone else under the bus for it.
You're damn right.
That's my girl.
Oh, no, like, that's what you gotta do. Like, I clearly, I was just trying to save the day here. They're the ones causing a ruckus.
I think you nailed it with the palette comment, Holly, and you, Nicole, with like saying they're trying to escape. Like, I like that because it feels like this is supposed to be this really dark, awful place that they desperately want to get out of, and it's just like the mood of like the seedy criminal, like the worst of the worst underground. And this is our first look at Corellia in like modern, current canon, and I think they were pretty faithful to like the horror stories you hear about this just like industrial world that's just this hellhole that people like are desperate to escape. And when Han is like banging on open it back up, like behind him you can see it's like all lit up, and then when it switches back to Kira, it's just darkness. And I thought that was like so perfect with how they're portraying like darkness is behind you. The only way you're gonna get to the light is to get through this gate. And I loved that part about the beginning. But yeah, like, I watched it this morning in my living room, and I had to close all the blinds, shut all the curtains. So it definitely, stinks if you don't have a dark room you can watch it in. Like, you can't watch this during the day, but I really, whether it was intentional or not on their part, I really like that part of the film. And I can't help but think about what we've been talking about with Bad Batch recently, with how like the Empire shot themselves in the foot and started their own downfall by replacing the clones with conscripted human soldiers. Because like, if that was a clone, he wouldn't have taken the bribe. They would have never gotten out.
Right. Although that is that's not a military authority, right? That's a civil. I'm so dorking out. I'm sorry. That's
I love it.
A civil municipal group. There's a whole thing in the visual guide about it where they have the imperial symbol on their uniforms that lends them that credibility, but they are in fact a civil government authority.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Curtsy.
Hold on, let me explain this for you. On page 372.
No, I'm not quite that bad, but it is very fun to listen to you say, this was the third time I watched it. And I'm like, I watched it 3 times last week. So a different consumption level of
Well, this is only the first time I've watched it for the second time. So.
Right. I also just have to give a shout out to the absolutely gorgeous costume design of David Crossman and Glenn Dillon, because one, like, I'm an 80s kid, so that sort of retro 80s look to a lot of the clothes, particularly on Corellia, is like, mwah, is so delicious. But also they're the cutest, most wearable. You can wear those in your day-to-day life here on Earth, and no one but you will know that you are in fact a scrum rat. It's fabulous.
Go
ahead, Jim.
Oh, I was going to say, like, kind of jumping off what JJ was saying about, like, this is Corellia that we've heard about. Legends kind of had problems with the way that they represented planets and species, like all bounty hunters, all Rhodians were bounty hunters, sort of thing, and like Corellia also had that problem where all Corellians were arrogant hotshot pilots. Like Wedge was Corellian, and like everyone that came up with, oh, you're Corellian, I could tell by your attitude. And this movie kind of threw that out, which I'm glad, because I hate the everybody must be this one thing stereotype that they were doing before, and they kind of made it like all the groups on there are their own thing, but they all fit into this society that got built up around the shipbuilding megalith.
Well, it is a galaxy where every planet has homogeneous weather patterns and terrain. So it would make sense that everyone from each of those planets has essentially the same personality base.
Ice planet, lava planet, swamp planet, desert planet. That's all we got.
That's it.
Right.
No variety. None.
Where are you from,
You want to see water?
Oh.
Like, you want to see water? Leave Tatooine. That's your option.
Right. There is an interesting thing that happens in this first chunk that I honestly had not thought a whole lot about until recently, where, Han's entire ethos in life, we see it happen over and over and over, is that he screws up and is then like, I'll fix it. I'll make it up to you. But the first time we see that happen, it comes out of Kira's mouth. And so I started thinking about just how, I have long been thinking about just how influential this early experience with Kira and his earnestness kind of getting slapped around formed him and informs his behavior going forward. But that one really jumped out at me recently, where I was like, man, right down to the way he handles problems, he's still mimicking this person who ultimately betrayed him, which is fascinating.
He also, like, I don't know, that puts out a creepy vibe, but like, he's like, I've been meaning to come back for you. Like, dude, that was 3 years ago. Like, either you are horribly inefficient at this, and I did it on my own, or like you're not actually trying.
I think you nailed it, Holly. Like, we see like the Han we meet and the selfish smuggler in A New Hope. A lot of this is pretty much because of what happens to him with Kira. Like, he loses that, like, throughout the film, he's trying to convince her that he's this bad guy who doesn't care. And by the end of the film, he kind of grows into that person, but it's because of, like, getting his heart broken by Kira that he becomes the guy that he's trying to be to impress her the whole time.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of his experience with Kira and Beckett. There's a lot of things that Beckett does that then Han does later. Specifically, and I don't mean he goes to see Jabba on Beckett's, recommendation or suggestion or whatever. I mean, when Beckett is like, we screwed up with Dryden Voss, we gotta go talk to him. And that's kind of what Han's doing on Tatooine when we meet him with Jabba. Like, I goofed, let me go fix it, let me talk to him. Like, just down to that basic instinct, that's Beckett. So I think it's interesting that we meet kind of the two people that influence Han's personality so much in this film, separately and then together, right? And so,
that they hate each other.
And they hate each other. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense as to why Han is the way he is, and he can be so contradictory, especially in the beginning of like the original trilogy, because his two influences are so opposite. And then it feels like Chewie's the voice of reason in all of it. Yeah.
Speaking of Chewie, I can't help but just get the biggest grin on my face every time he sits down to that co-pilot seat and John Williams' music starts to come up from the depths. I feel like his the score, is very like, you don't hear it often, but when it does kind of like rise up, I feel like it's always in like the best moments for it to happen, and that's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's like the Falcon reveal is like the most beloved moment of film at our house. Like, we can literally, I will be like in my sewing room watching it. My husband will skid in and be like, is it time? Is it time for that moment? Stand up and watch. Like, it's very, very funny. We love it because, the Falcon's theme is essentially the entire score, like the main theme of Star Wars, just slowed down with different arrangement, which makes it such a lovely nod to this one thing that we have all been so in love with since we were kids, as like the ultimate expression of freedom and speed and coolness.
And just joy. Mm-hmm. And that look on his face when he sees her and the two moons in the sky. It's same thing with me. It's like one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. And it's so cool because I've now had that experience in real life. Like the first time I went to Galaxy's Edge and saw the Falcon. And
yes,
I think that's why I love that scene so much, is because I get how he's feeling now that I've experienced it. And so many other Star Wars film fans, I feel like that is the perfect like encapsulation of the joy that we all feel the first time you're walking through that park and then you see the Falcon and you get a little happy tear,
Oh yeah, my beloved actually made sure to have that moment of the score queued up for when he turned that corner and saw the Falcon for the first time.
I'm not surprised at all.
Relive that moment, which was lovely. It was funny because we were in the park for a minute before that and getting our bearings, and he was like walking around doing the blinders so he didn't accidentally ruin his own reveal moment, which was very cute.
I love Brian.
I do too. He's a good one.
My only problem with that scene, and I realized it this time watching,
Jim.
is that, it's
For real.
You don't get to see the Falcon take off. You get the reveal, and then the next time you see it, it's already in the air flying away. You don't get the liftoff of the Falcon. I was kind of hoping that we'd get that like kind of like fan nod to A New Hope, where you actually get to see it kind of like wobble up off the ground.
For me, that moment is when Han sits in the pilot seat. It's that when Chewie sits with him, and then Punch It. God, I love Punch It.
Oh! Did you see my just natural reaction? Couldn't hold it in. Punch It. The first Punch It. Are you kidding? Just great. But I also get that feeling, and it might be completely different. Yes to all, right? And then when Lando says about L3, she's part of the ship now, I get very emotional. I get it, like, because I love L3, and also Phoebe is a phenomenal actor, and I love her voice, and I love her in everything. So she brought so much personality to L3, and then like I fell in love with her and like everything she's about and the whole rebellion thing, and then
that whole thing
literally part of the ship, you know what I mean? Like, of course this spirit of rebellion is in this ship, because this ship is at every part of like the rebellion, the resistance, like is core to them winning all the time. And of course one of the pieces of the ship is L3's heart. Not literally, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get very emotional at that part, and almost everything Donald Glover does, but that's beside the point. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. There was almost, in some ways it's almost more thrilling for me to see Lando's relationship with the Falcon at that phase, because that's how we're introduced to Lando in the original trilogy, is him still being cheesed that that's not his ship anymore. And so he's just been like pining for this vessel this whole time. And so then you get to see why, like, aside from the fact that it is kitted out so beautifully. And I love that in the books they talk about how irritated he is that Han's a slob and doesn't take care of it properly. Like, all of that is great. And I just like him feeling so at ease, and like this entire ship is really an extension of him and his style. Oh, so good.
And that's
The
one
cape
of the
closet.
yeah, that's
Just
one
a
of the
closet
best
of capes.
that's one of the best parts of the from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back is when Lando, that you get a picture of Lando sitting in the Falcon thinking of L3, and L3 basically screaming from the inside of the Falcon because the Falcon has no way of communicating outside, and like trying to like talk to Lando and stuff.
And it's that tie back to, sir, this ship has the most peculiar dialect.
Yes. I accidentally spoiled myself on that whole L3 situation when I read Last Shot, which came out before Solo, because the way that DJ Older talks about it, I don't remember what it was, but part of me was like, oh my God, she's gonna be the Falcon's personality. And then I was like, damn it! Like, I was mad at myself that I spoiled it for myself. I don't know how to deal with that little internal struggle, but
That's what you get for reading.
right?
Yeah, right.
Fundamental. No. We haven't talked at all about Dryden Voss.
Let's do it, because I got
I have
notes.
feelings. I have so many feelings about Dryden Voss. Paul Bettany can do whatever he wants. Goodbye. The end. That's it. Go on.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I could talk about his suit for an hour.
Oh, what a suit.
It's spectacular. I had the good fortune to see it in person.
Really?
Yeah, it was on display at Lucasfilm when I visited at one point. And like, I mean, I have sewn for decades and decades, and like I really love suiting in particular, and I just have to say, like, the tailoring on that thing was breathtaking. It's so beautifully made. You know, I mean, it's a bespoke garment because they're making it specifically for a film, but like, it's just some of the piecing and the way it's designed and constructed is so smart and sort of innovative, and not what you would normally think of if you're a person that makes a suit. Like, the way they chose to assemble it and place seams is just really smart. And then when you see it on screen again after that, you're like, oh, that is why it hangs so absolutely perfectly on him. It's just beautiful.
Everything.
Stunning.
The first moment that you walk into the First Light, his like pleasure barge / evil headquarters,
Yacht.
like the costumes when Han and Beckett and Chewie first walk in just hit you. The singer with like that weird mouthpiece and the glittering silvery dress with the alien in the glass jar singing, and all the people that Beckett's like, they're not your friends, don't talk to these people. But you can't blame Han for not wanting to talk to these people, because the costumes are amazing. They all look amazing.
Right. Luleo Primock, who is the little fish dude, I love him. I just love him. I love the idea. His backstory is very funny, that he was essentially sort of like this, almost a Frank Sinatra, Errol Flynn sort of combination, where he was this fabulous singer, and then they kind of put him in a humanoid suit, and he made films, and now he's past his prime of his career, but people that are still sort of into like retro style love him, and that's why he's on this yacht. Like, all of that is fabulous, but what you get is a weird frog fish dude that sings
That looks
in what
like a
sounds
brain.
like alien French, which is like heaven on its own. So
So cool. I live.
I like the dichotomy between Dryden Voss's like immaculate ship and Lady Proxima's kind of literal sewer, and you have basically the same thing. Like, Lady Proxima and Dryden Voss are essentially like criminal overlords of their own little respective things, and then you have all your minions around it, but you have like one who's successful versus one who lives in a sewer.
Right. Two things. One, I want every dress Kira wears in this movie. I want all of them. I want all of her casual clothes. I want her dresses. I want all of it. Phenomenal. A plus. And 2, I'm gonna use Dryden Voss to talk about my favorite person in Star Wars, Darth Maul. So I picked up on a lot of hints that like of the Maul reveal at the end this time, and the first one was the scars on Dryden Voss's face. Kind of hearken to Maul's, coloring on his face, which I think is fascinating. Like, is Maul doing some stuff to these dudes, or is there some backstory that I don't know with Dryden Voss, So that. And then Crimson Dawn, which, yeah, that sounds like Maul. Hello, how are you? It's just like, yeah, I don't know how I didn't just see that one coming. But yeah, especially Dryden's face. I was like, of course, this works perfectly. Like, it's not exact. I think if you lined them up, it'd look different. But, like, it's clearly, like, suggesting, But I don't know about his backstory. I don't know if I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not 100% positive if we have a backstory for why he's got that.
In my head, that's why. Maul just destroyed his face.
Well, I thought that was like a thing with his species, where like the angrier he gets, the more red his face gets in those marks.
Because it's not consistent. It flares up and it goes back, and he reminded me of the Powans, with the lines down their faces, except for his flared and didn't flare.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, when he gets crabby, they get deeper red.
When he gets crabby, yeah, that's a perfect way of saying it.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany, man. I mean,
he's so good.
There's so many great people in this, but it's just, man, he's good. Like, because prior to this role, all I can think of with him is just like this sweet, gentle, compassionate, soft-spoken vision, and now he's just like this, I'm gonna murder you if you screw this up. And I'm going to eat caviar while I'm threatening you. And, like, his delivery on everything. Oh, I never asked for anything twice, huh?
Oh, every
Chills.
time he hisses Enfys Nest's name is like a poem. It's so good. It's so extraordinary good.
Excellent. Yeah, see, I know him from A Knight's Tale, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's Chaucer, and then no, it's not. I'm scared of this man. He brings like that not subtle, but like a soft threat, but it's always a threat. You know what you know what he means. Like, he's being a little passive aggressive, but it's completely the most aggressive, and you get it. So then when he does kind of explode, it's terrifying, because he's already scary when he's being nice to you, and now it's like, I gotta go. Like, I must leave because you are a scary, scary man.
Can we talk about the Easter eggs in his office?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
And the fact that Doc Ondar was on that ship when all that biz was going down.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, the attachés discuss Doc.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, totally missed that. Never knew about that until now.
Yeah, Kira asked, like, are you attending to Doc Ondar? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I just shot up out of my seat.
Je m'excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the one that stands out the most, it's an argument between the fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Mandalorian armor.
Right.
But then there's others that are like, you gotta be a super nerd to get. And I didn't know about the dancing goddess. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
I am trying to remember.
It's
not ringing bells,
it's the
so tell me.
green, like, jade-like statue. And apparently it's a callback to a legend story, like a comic book with Han and Chewie from forever ago. And then the giant, like, crystal skull. I thought that was a nod to Crystal Skull, the Indiana Jones movie. But apparently that's also a nod to a legend story, Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. It's called Zim's Death Head. But the one that's that sticks out the most to me is
that one I knew.
The Sith holocron.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's been confirmed.
Did he get
or
it
not.
from Doc? Maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
And it looks like there might be lightsabers below it. Does anyone know if that was ever confirmed or not?
I don't know. I know that there have it hasn't been, I don't think, starkly said, but it's been like confirmed insofar as far as the holocron goes of, yes, that sure does look like a Sith holocron, doesn't it? But I don't know about the sabers.
I just looked up the Dancing Goddess, and it says it's in Doc Ondar's shop now, like in Galaxy's Edge.
I'm gonna go look for it.
Yeah, Doc Ondar's is loaded with fun.
I'm so excited.
Sometimes hard to parse all of those things because it can feel a little bit tight and crowded in there. So, and most things are up above eye level, so you're kind of like this, bumping into people. At least I am. But yes, there's every time I go, I feel like I see something. I'm like, I never noticed that one before.
I'm so hyped. I'm going in a couple months, and for the first time. And,
are you going to Batu West or East?
East.
Fun.
Yeah, very excited. Very excited. And I will be building the lightsaber. I will be doing all the stuff.
Yes.
I will fight people to get into Oga's Cantina. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But yeah, now I'm going to keep an eye out for all of this stuff. I'm so excited. Getting me hyped, guys.
She actually has a reservation for the fights outside of Oga's Cantina.
Right? Mm-hmm. Cool.
I don't have the reservation to get in. I have the reservation to fight people to get in.
There you go.
It's different.
There's a different queue for it. You have to get up at like 6 in the morning and like confirm that you're going to fight that day.
It's harder to get than Rise of the Resistance.
Waivers.
It's harder than a Rise of the Resistance boarding group. It's, only the elite know about it. It's a whole thing.
So, moving on with Solo. I noticed this for the first time. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but when we first meet Lando, it feels like the Graduate shot because Han steps in front and you see Lando through Han's legs, which is exactly what we see in The Graduate.
Fascinating.
It's also every James Bond poster, right?
Oh, you're right. That too. I immediately jumped to The Graduate, but that's probably more James Bond than The Graduate.
That lodge at Fort Ipso or Ipso, however it's pronounced. I want a spin-off. I want a spin-off show just about what goes on at that lodge because that's a spectacular herd of odd and marvelous creatures.
I like the little aliens. I don't know if it's two-headed alien or two aliens.
It's a two-headed alien,
Yeah.
That were sitting next to Lando. I like that little guy.
Therm scissor punch forever.
I really like the guy that loses and does the whole munching of his fingernails and they go flying everywhere.
Was he one of that species was in the pod racing scene in Phantom Menace, and that's all I think about every time. I'm like, ah! And then I get my little Phantom Menace moment, and I move on.
Donald freaking Glover, man, like... Just get him back somehow. Like everything he does in this film is wonderful, and it's Han, and for the rest of the movie, he purposely calls him Han.
Perfect.
And
explain that
the first time, the first time he tries to get like all uppity with them, he's just like, "Shh, grown-ups are talking."
So good. It's so good. I can't keep track of.
I love that he calls L3 my lady.
Get out of here with that. It's so good. I can't keep track of all the shows we're getting. We're getting a Lando show, are we not? Is it? Yes. Is Donald Glover going to do it? Because if not, I'm not interested. It's that simple.
Nothing.
Because I just thought to myself, give him a show. And then I was like, I think he's getting one. But wait, is he though? And I swear to God, if it's not Donald Glover, again, not interested. So.
Yeah. There's nothing out there about
it. Man. Well, I want that.
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that, yes, the whole thing is predicated on them being in early talks with them, but they can't ever announce any of that until it's dry, so we'll see.
That man does a lot of stuff, so that might be why. Like, it might be a scheduling thing, it could be. Because that man works. He's a busy guy, So...
I can't imagine, even if the ink wasn't dry, that they would announce a Lando show without the ink being dry with him. Even if they're not ready to announce him, like he has to be like I can't imagine.
Oh, I think
they
they're
would
probably in talks. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would if they're just in talks, I wouldn't imagine that they wouldn't even announce it.
Well, keep in mind, like anything announced at an upfront style event is kind of subject to change. So,
Rangers
I mean,
of
it's
the New
not like they have
Republic.
put out a bunch of press about any of it. It literally came up just like on that investors call. So
It was on a screen, and you click to the
Yeah.
next screen, and we have this one. And
yes. Enjoy my PowerPoint. This might happen.
Exactly.
Something from this film that I've been wanting more of since this film came out, and that I feel like the show, if it happens, is the perfect place to do it, is I want the Calrissian Chronicles. I want those.
I love it. Like, call the show that. Instead of Lando, call it that. His book sounds delightful. And, like, I just get a chuckle out of that whenever I think about him sitting there. Like, and the delivery was perfect. Like, everything about that little moment. Chills.
the best part about that is the Lando Calrissian trilogy, that he was referencing the old 1980-ish book series, and so that it's one of those. I'm like go on.
No, there's a lag. I was saying exactly what you're saying.
Oh yeah, it's one of those, like, anyone in the know would love it, and anyone not in the know still would love it.
100%.
Do you guys think we're going to get? I know there's issues of how long it's been. There's issues with Ray Park and a bunch of supposed crazy things happening with him. Do you think we're going to get something down the road with Kira and
Hi,
Maul?
hello.
I feel like they'd be crazy.
Yes,
not
they
to,
would
right?
be. And I have many thoughts and feelings on this. Obviously, you're coming to the Darth Maul Authority. What's up? So, Ray Park's done to me. I don't want to see him in anything ever again for the rest of my life. You could put Sam Witwer in the makeup and it would look more like Maul than what this looked like. And also all of his crap. I'm not interested in him anymore. I'm horrible. But I'm not interested anymore. I'm not. Like, Sam Witwer is Maul to me. And that's that. Like, so it could be anyone. You could put anyone in the makeup and make them do some stunts and I'll be happy. You know? But yes, I wrote down in big letters, if there's no Kira and Maul movie, show, something down the line, I give up. They set it up perfectly. And it's interesting.
Are you guys at a point where you're talking about comics spoilers?
We can.
Yeah.
Well, because for anyone who does not read comics, duck out. Kira is back in the comics, right? And the way they've set it up,
I'm not caught up
could
then.
very well. Well, I just spoiled you. The way it's set up, I will give you no real information, but the way it's set up, they have done it kind of artfully in a way that they could pick up there and not have to backtrack with any Maul stuff unless they want to do it in like flashback kind of explainers. Yeah. So I think we could still get all of the yummy Kira content without getting into the messy, problematic parts of casting or recasting Maul.
Is this part of the War of the Bounty Hunters event that's going on?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. That's a perfect spot for her to drop in. But I wasn't surprised that she left, but I would love from her perspective, like, more on why she decided it was better for her to leave and go with Maul and what happened after that. She's just such an interesting character. She's been through so much, and we know what happened to Han. We know that he joined the Imperial Navy. We know that he met up with Beckett, but Kira's just, a lieutenant in Crimson Dawn, and there's a little bit out there about what happened to her, and I believe Lady Proxima sold her to Crimson Dawn, but like all the in-between, like how she got from point A to point B, I would love to see.
I also feel like Han and her relationship is not closed. Like her relationship with Han may be closed, but Han's relationship with her is definitely not closed, because as she said, I'll be right behind you. I feel like that needs to get finalized before Han can move on to Leia, essentially, like move on with his life.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's why his relationship with Leia ultimately failed, right? Like, he needs some therapy. He's never gonna be a good long-term partner because he has too much baggage.
Exactly. Yes. That, and also I do think there's part of him when she says, I'll be right behind you, that he knows that's a lie. The look on his face, he's like, you're full of, excuse me, you're full of crap, man. Like, you're lying to me, but all right, like, cool. And he just kind of like holds out hope a little bit, but deep down he knows she's not coming with him. Like, he knows that. So I think part of him, I mean, yes, he doesn't have full closure, but I think he's like 90% accepted that, and I think that 10% is the fatal, like, I'm not done yet, you know? And that's why everything Holly said is true.
I feel like in my head canon, that moment where he knows on some level she's not coming. But there's a part of him that is doing that like crazy mental gymnastics that someone in that position who is just smitten will do, of like, but if I tell her I know that, then I'll lose her for real. But if I play it cool, maybe she'll still come back to me. Like, he's totally doing all of that stuff before he's like, okay, I'm going down to the beach, I guess. Like, he's hoping that in being relaxed about it, he will be the man that Kira wants.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going down to the beach. I assume you're just changing into your bathing suit. You'll be right behind me.
Need to collect some jewels. That doesn't take 2 seconds that I could watch you do it. Like, that's not... Just grab them.
Yeah.
I totally... If I was Han, I would have grabbed... Like, there was a pile of them. I would have just, like, grabbed a handful and shoved it in my pocket on the way out.
That's all you need. Why does she need this much time? Like, of course. He knows. He knows. Ugh.
I know Alden Ehrenreich got like a lot of flack for his performance, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I think like you're stepping into a legendary role that no matter how good you are, it's never gonna fulfill the original. Like, it's impossible to live up to that. So he's already in this position of extreme difficulty with the impossible expectations. And I know, there was acting coaches and lots of criticism, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I felt like throughout the film, you could see moments in which he was changing as a character and his personality. And, we just discussed one of them with Kira. Like, the first moment on the that he saw the Falcon, the first moment in the Falcon when he was leaning in the doorway watching Kira try on capes. That was the first moment where I was like, oh, that's Han Solo. That is him right there with the lean and the swagger and the smirk on his face. It was just perfect to me. And I really liked his performance.
I agree 100%. There's a couple moments. I mean, he's not going to be exactly Han Solo because he is not Harrison Ford. Like, that's just simple facts.
There's only one of them.
He is not Harrison Ford. So, he did as well as I could expect someone to be, and I think the moment that I love the most, that I'm like, that's Han Solo, is when they're doing the big heist. I'm going to miss planet names and species names, so someone's going to help me. But, Kessel. They're on Kessel. They're on Kessel, and he's in the whole outfit, and he starts speaking the alien language, and the guy responds, and he goes, that's what I said, and he just hits him. And it's the same energy of the, like, yeah, everything is fine here now. How are you? It's the same energy. And I love that, because it's such a hard thing to capture from Harrison's performance. And I think he did a great job in that moment, even if it's like a different moment, it's the same energy. And I really appreciated that, because I feel like that's difficult. You know what I mean?
I thought he was spectacular. I mean, I really feel like people's struggles with it are literally just that they have a visual of what Han Solo looks like. And even with all of the perfect mannerisms, because it's not identical to that, like, they just can't parse it. Because I think if you really break it down, like the moments you guys have already mentioned, he's got it in spades. I mean, Alden Ehrenreich is no slouch as an actor. Look at any other thing he's done. He's amazing in everything. So yeah, I never understood people being chagrined about his performance, because I thought was perfect.
It was crazy to me that he got as much criticism as he did. And Nicole, you called out such a good moment that I didn't even think of. But I think the other one for me, which is also one of my absolute favorite parts of the film, is the whole chase scene through the maw that gave him, you know, the legend of his Kessel Run. Just like when he takes over in the pilot seat, I'm like, that's Han Solo right there. And just from start to finish with like, it's just this beautiful like homage to Empire Strikes Back in the asteroid field with so much that's happening. Like you got the crazy big creature chasing them, like the TIE fighters chasing them. They're getting smashed up by asteroids. Han's like sarcasm while he's flying. Like there's so many beautiful, perfect moments in there on their own, and just that are just like, hey, Empire Strikes Back, right? I just love that part of the movie.
And then you get the great line afterwards when he goes, "We made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs." Chewie says something, and he turns around and goes, "Not if you round down."
Perfect.
Have you round down,
Like-
buddy?
A+ moment. A+, like, and so Han Solo. So, like, one of the first things he says to Luke and Obi-Wan is, yeah, it's the ship that made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, which I could yell about.
Wasn't
Whatever
it 11
he says,
parsecs in A New
sure,
Hope?
fine. It's early. Like,
No, it's
leave me
not.
alone. Whatever it is,
Stop shaking your head at me, Holly.
it's just funny. It's just, that's the vibe.
I don't know. Fine. I find it the criticism of Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo really weird too, because we've been dealing with decades of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Nobody else could be Indiana Jones, yet there's been 4 actors who've been Indiana Jones. And like you had younger characters be Indiana Jones. You had River Phoenix in like one of the main movies. You had Sean Patrick Flannery. You have the other
So good.
the other kid who I don't remember his name.
It's not important, buddy. We get you.
Yeah, but it's like they all did great. They were different versions of the character. Like Han Solo is not a sacred idol that can't have other people kind of portray him. Like older, yes, Han Solo's still around, or Harrison Ford's still around. He could be the older version, but the younger version, like, yeah, you're gonna need somebody else. I don't want to see digital recreation of 80-year-old Harrison Ford
Not interested.
Right.
playing young Han Solo.
Nor would he want to do that. It's Harrison Ford. Like, that was never going to be an option. Like,
Right.
He's just angry about everything all the
Yeah,
time.
that's not on the table. Not on the table. Yeah, I mean, I'll point out that those iterations of Indy were before the internet wanted to be mad about everything, and we were in the midst of the ongoing chagrin that some people had over Last Jedi, which this fell right on the tail of. Angry, I guess.
Star Wars fans going to be
Like,
Star
literally,
Wars fans.
when are
Yep.
Star Wars
Right.
fans not mad? Like, you tell me when they're not mad. We're always mad. It's ridiculous.
When they're asleep.
Maybe not even then, because I think they're dreaming about, whatever. I can't. But I always bring up, specifically with this movie, how Han Solo's name is an adopted name. Like, he was just given Solo and he took it and he ran with it. So if Rey wants to be a damn Skywalker, she can be. Don't let me get mad about
I
this
know.
right now, guys. But I bring it up all the time. I'm like, Han Solo's name is not Han. It's just Han. But he's using Solo because that's what we're going with. It's an adopted name. Leave it alone. Like, it's fine.
I always found it funny that when this first came out, people were a little bit cheesed at how kind of hokey that establishment of the last name was. And I'm like, again, I mean, I'm a hag. So, like, I was around when the first film came out. And I remember people being like, that's the stupidest last name for a character ever. And, like, that, I mean, it is cheesy inherently to be like, Han Solo is the loner gunslinger. Like, yes, that's blazingly obvious. So, of course, the retro story on how he got that name has to be equivalent level of cheese for it to really work, because it is kooky as hell, and it establishes Han as kind of a dork. Like, yeah, that is my cool name. Like,
Everyone take me seriously, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, I'm so
like,
mysterious. I'm Han Solo.
That's Star
It's
Wars.
so good.
Like, it's
Yeah,
super
exactly.
cheesy,
Yeah.
guys. Like,
Yes.
the second he leaves that guy who's like, we'll have you flying in no time, he's flying through the air screaming after a giant explosion goes off.
And you know what else is a stupid name?
yes.
Skywalker. Oh, is he a pilot? Wow, I'm shocked. Skywalker. Like, of course, they're all silly.
Right,
They're all
not-
silly.
Not exactly veiled in subtlety at all.
That and Lucas. Like,
What? What?
Who said that?
Self-insert? What? No, never.
Silly.
But
There's-
also, like the origins of the name kind of lends credence to Ben Solo's kind of identity crisis, because he has the first name of someone his mother never met, his father barely met, and the last name that was literally given to him on a whim.
Right. It's literally like a clerical notation
It's like, buddy,
that
need to
Han
put-
is that Han is too foolish to understand is not his new moniker. Like,
I need to put something here, buddy. I don't care what you tell me. I need to put something in the field.
yeah, I can't leave this part of the
Yeah.
form blank. We got-
It won't click through. The next button doesn't work.
technical error.
just keeps throwing in error. I don't know what to tell you.
This movie has so much good comedy
So
in it,
funny.
even when it's not being subtle. Like the opening chase scene on Corellia, which I just it's perfect to me that you see the stormtrooper on the bike and he's like, pull over, crash, scream. I'm like, yeah, that's about right for stormtroopers. And
That
then
seems correct.
yeah, that's it. They're never back again after that.
It makes me wonder what Lord and Miller would have done. You know?
That's I wondered that as well, because you have a script by Lawrence Kasdan, and so you're already dealing with basically they're are adapting somebody else's material. What were they doing that got them kicked off
For
the
real.
set?
I mean, because it's their humor, like their brand of humor. You know what I mean? Like all the funnies. I'm like, yeah, that, you know, that's up Lord and Miller's alley. Like they could have ran with that. So like what, you know what I mean? Like it just makes me wonder how much more of that we would have gotten, or like, also, yeah, what the hell did they do? Like what happened, man? Jeez.
Well, we'll never know, and that's
Yeah.
okay, because I'm really happy with what we got. I love this film, and I truly believe, and Jim's a great example, that the longer time goes on, the more people come to appreciate and enjoy this film. And I so hope that we get back to some of these characters. And I think Disney has seen that this area of Star Wars, hello Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, is a really fun place to explore that fans are very excited about. So fingers crossed that the Lando show happens, and fingers crossed that we get something with Kira in live action again, because I would just love that.
Well, and we haven't even talked about Enfys Nest. Or
Right?
Val. I would love a backstory on Val, right?
So
like
good.
she is such an astonishingly cool character. Who has, I mean, she's obviously like capital B badass, and yet she has this softness about her. Like when she's dealing with Beckett, she's like the only kind of gentle thing in his life. And I
she-
feel like that's, I mean, she's
I
Tandy
was gonna
Newton, for
say
God's sake.
she's
Yeah.
she's
and she has this enormous chip on her shoulder about anybody joining their
Yeah.
squad.
she's so
And like
bad.
this came from somewhere. Like there's a backstory to
Yeah,
this.
like who wronged
Yeah.
you? I want to know everything. I want to know everything about her. She is so good and so chill, and just like I'm so mad she's not alive. And that she gets like maybe 15 minutes of screen time, maybe 15, and I'm like, she is a gem. Like I want more.
all you need
Yeah,
is a
she's
parachute. Just jump off
Yeah.
the edge. Like that's it. You could hit like that's all you like,
Give Val a jetpack.
Yes, I was gonna say, where's the Mandalorian jetpack? They're just laying around.
It almost felt
Right?
unnecessary, but
I was
fine.
bummed. I was real bummed. And then you
It's
see,
it's tricky, yeah. I know I have seen some people say like, oh, but it would be, why don't they just switch her and Beck? The problem is you would have to do a major rewrite for this to work, because if you do that, like then you're in a position where one of the big bads of the thing is a black woman. Like there aren't many good guys in this movie that you could, put a person of color into and not make it really seedy. So there would have to be significant rewriting at that point, which is part of the problem, I think, inherently, that maybe wasn't thought through from the beginning. I mean, I personally like hating Beckett. It's very fulfilling and it feels good.
He's written as a character you hate. And you don't just trust the entire
And Woody
time.
Harrelson's great in that. Like, give him someone you kind of enjoy hating. It's Woody Harrelson all the time. He's so good at it. Like, I don't know him.
And he revels in it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not trying to say anything about him because, quite frankly, I know nothing about him. But his he's so good at it. He's so skilled at being a pain in the butt. Like, he's so good at it. Like, damn. And you love to watch him. You love to watch him do it.
You made me think of the scene on... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Holly.
Oh, I was going to say, just out of nowhere on occasion, just his line, "She's a survivor," will just jump in my head and I start laughing. I'm like, why is that bad exactly? Why is that how you're denigrating Kira? Okay.
Upsetting.
It made me think of him with the dead Imperial captain's uniform on, just like chewing peanuts, like walking along. He's like, "Lieutenant, take this man. He's a deserter." He's just like, "Oh, blackmail, huh? Okay, cool. I respect that. Enjoy this."
Casual as hell. Just like, I had this planned, but I didn't, and that's how good I am. Like, he's so good.
Oh, Woody's great.
Yeah.
And Holly, you mentioned her, one of the best underrated characters in this entire movie, Enfys Nest. Like, she is absolutely fantastic. I love that Aaron Kellyman comes back in, not as Enfys Nest, but comes back into the Marvel universe. In the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, I really love her as an actress, and I would hope that if we do get something more along these lines, that she comes back.
Or maybe.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe.
She's great.
I mean, we didn't even mention that there's a new Rhodian in this. It's very exciting for me personally. But listen, poor Chisido getting her head blown off in The Mandalorian. That's depressing. She's my beautiful rose gold Rhodian for a minute.
It counts.
I mean, a Cloud Rider series seems like the easiest thing on Earth, right? That's a short walk.
Warwick Davis would be up for anything.
Yes! That should be a short walk to Greenlight, I think, right? Because you can bring in a cajillion, guest stars anytime you want. The makeup of the group can change as you need it for people's contractual obligations on other projects. You just need, Enfys Nest, and then the rest is, can come and go.
And Warwick Davis. I was going to say, I love that he gets FaceTime and a line, which, I feel like this dude is in everything all the time and never gets any FaceTime. And he's so good. So good. I'm like, what? I want him to do everything all the time. That's why he plays multiple characters in Harry Potter. There's a reason.
He's gonna be soon, right? Willow,
yeah.
Right? Isn't he coming back in that?
Yeah. The best part about Warwick Davis's role in this is it's the same character as episode 1.
Yes.
Right.
You're right.
And it just random tie-in. It's let's do it the same character. I'm like, that's just it, they never mention it in the movie at all. Unless you read the background on stuff, you would never know. And it's just the fantastic little plot details.
So good.
I can't think of a more positive place to close our discussion than on Warwick Davis.
Love that
Affection.
man.
But yeah, I think that does it. I think we knocked out an hour pretty quick there, and I feel like we could keep on going.
We've kept Tully in the closet for long enough.
Bum, bum, bum. That sounds horrible, but for anyone who doesn't know, I record in a closet.
Oh, Jim. But Holly, thank you so much for hanging out with us and talking about Solo. It was a blast.
Oh, my great pleasure. When I figure out how I think Savarine brandy should be made, we can all have a cocktail
Hell yeah.
together.
Oh,
So
yes.
into it.
'Cause I have so many questions about that. Distilled from sea grapes. Come on.
Sounds great to me.
One day we'll all get to a celebration together.
Oh, I'd
hopefully.
love
Yes.
Before we get out of here, Holly, do you want to share with folks where they can find you and what you're working on?
Oh, sure. Always I'm on Full of Sith, so you can always listen to us there. We're at Full of Sith pretty much everywhere on social media. Stuff You Missed in History Class is always going forever, never takes breaks. So that is at Missed in History everywhere. We did do a two-parter on the life of Ralph McQuarrie recently, which was pretty fun, and got to talk about a lot of his concept pieces, which show up in everything else we have talked about, including today. There's about to be the holdup of, I have that book. It's that two-part book. It's amazing. And then, yeah, I mean, I always have a million little irons in the fire. So you can just find me. I'm on Twitter as Surliest Girl and on Instagram as SurlyGirly5, which is, fair warning, mostly cats and Star Wars food and cocktails for both of those. And Galaxy's Edge everything. You can just go to Galaxy's Edge and I'll be there eventually.
All right. That's going to do it for today's episode, everybody. So thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you do, you can find more of us pretty much every week here on Talkin Tauntauns. We're also on Twitter, where we're posting nerdy Star Wars stuff most days of the week at Talkin Tauntauns. If you have a question for us, something you'd like us to discuss on the show, or some feedback, you can shoot us an email, talkintauntauns@aiptcomics.com. Speaking of which, aiptcomics.com is where we all write from time to time. You can find Jim's reviews of pretty much every Star Wars book ever there and that will ever come out, and lots of other fun nerdy stuff. And we also do, speaking of books, a Star Wars book club. So for $2 through our Patreon, you can get access to that, as well as our Discord community with a lot of other great Star Wars fans. Jim, Nicole, anything else before we get out of here?
I'm solid.
No?
All
I'm
right.
good.
That's going to do it. I'm going to go put stuff in boxes while a Star Wars movie of random choice plays in the background, and we'll see you next time.
Here I am taking stuff out of boxes.
Yeah, Jim and I are going through the reverse right now. The
And
opposite.
I'm just chilling.
Aw.